I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. My son sat me at the far corner of his dinner table and placed a cold, forgotten plate in front of me like I didn't matter at all. He didn't realize that every warm meal in that house, every bill paid on time, every comfort he lived in, traced back to me. That night as I drove home in silence, something inside me shifted. Because by morning I had already begun planning the moment I would take back every dollar he had built his life on. My name is Charlotte Hayes. I'm 73 years old, a widow, and a mother who finally learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's surrender. Most mornings start slow for me now, slower than they used to. The kettle warms at its own pace. My knees follow suit, and I don't rush either of them. At 73, you learn that simple rituals hold you steady. They give the day a shape, a softness, something to lean on when life grows a little quiet. Every morning, sunlight slips across my dining table in a thin ribbon of gold. This house, my house, has carried nearly 40 years of my life. Margaret, my late husband, and I bought it when Alex was still small enough to fall asleep on my chest without asking permission. Back then, money was tight, but hope was plentiful. We worked long hours, gave up vacations, patched old clothes, and made every corner of this place feel like home. I still see Margaret everywhere, in the way the curtains fall just so, in the row of plates he arranged by color, always particular about the little things, in the soft dent on his favorite armchair where he'd sit every evening, reading the paper with his reading glasses perched on the edge of his nose. There's a comfort in memories that don't demand anything from you. At least that's how it felt before things changed. I walk through the house most mornings, touching the back of each chair as I pass. It's a small habit I picked up after Margaret died 3 years ago, a way of saying good morning to the life we built together. The kitchen still smells faintly of the lemon polish Margaret insisted on using every Saturday. I can't bring myself to switch brands. The kettle whistles at exactly 7:15, just like it has for the past decade. I pour the water over an Earl Grey tea bag, the same kind Margaret and I shared every morning while planning our day. Steam rises and curls in the early light, and for a moment everything feels peaceful. But peace, I've learned, is often just the quiet before you realize something's been wrong all along. I carried my tea to the small dining table and sat in my usual spot. From here I could see the backyard Margaret's garden, though I'm the one who tends it now. The roses he planted 5 years before he passed are blooming despite my mediocre gardening skills. Pink and white petals opening to the morning sun, resilient and beautiful. My fingers wrapped around the warm ceramic mug Lauren made for me when she was 7. The paint was faded now, the bright colors muted by time and countless trips through the dishwasher. But I could still make out the words she'd written in careful, crooked letters. World's best mom. Lauren, my daughter. She lives in California and now works as a nurse in San Francisco. We talk every week, sometimes twice, if she's not drowning in double shifts. She's the one who got away, not in a bad way, but in a healthy way. She built her own life, made her own money, created her own path. She calls because she wants to, not because she needs something. Alex, my son, is different. I took a long sip of tea and let myself think about him. 42 years old, married to Vanessa for 8 years. Father to my beautiful grandson Ethan. He lives just 25 minutes away in a neighborhood I helped him afford, though I try not to think about that too much. When Margaret died, Alex stepped in. Or I thought he did. He helped with the funeral arrangements, took over decisions I didn't have the strength to face, handled paperwork while I was still floating in that strange fog of grief where nothing feels real. I was grateful. What mother wouldn't be? But somewhere in that heavy season, something shifted between us. I leaned on him emotionally, and he leaned right back financially. At first, it was small things, reasonable things. Mom, the car broke down. Can you help with the repair? Just $1,200. I'll pay you back next month. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Family doesn't keep receipts, I told myself. That's what Margaret would have wanted. Then it was Ethan's school fees, an unexpected $3,500 for a special program. We really want him to have every opportunity, Mom. You understand, right? I understood. I wrote the check. Then the air conditioning unit died in August. $2,800. Mom, it's brutal here. Ethan's been getting nosebleeds from the heat. I transferred the money that afternoon. Then, Mom, can I add myself to your credit card just for emergencies? It'll be easier than calling you every time something comes up. I hesitated, but Alex sounded stressed. Vanessa was pregnant with their second child at the time, though she ended up miscarrying at 12 weeks. It was a hard time, so I added him. Just for emergencies, I repeated. He smiled. Of course, Mom. Just emergencies. 6 months later, he asked me to co-sign a mortgage refinance. Better rates, he said. It would save them hundreds every month. You're not responsible for payments or anything, just a formality for the bank. I signed. I signed because he was my son, because I trusted him, because saying no felt like saying I didn't believe in him. I didn't realize I was signing away pieces of myself. Now, sitting in my quiet kitchen with my faded mug and my cooling tea, I thought about last Sunday. The dinner that changed everything. The moment I finally saw what had been happening all along. My hands trembled slightly as I set the mug down. Not from age, from something deeper. Something that felt like waking up after years of sleepwalking. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the Sundays first. The tradition that slowly became a trap. It started innocently enough. After Margaret died, Alex suggested I come over for Sunday dinners. You shouldn't be alone so much, Mom. Come have dinner with us. It'll be good for everyone. He was right. The house felt too big without Margaret. Too quiet. The silence had a weight to it that pressed down on my chest some nights, making it hard to breathe. So I said yes. Every Sunday at 6 o'clock, I'd put on something nice. Margaret always said you should dress for the people you love and drive the 25 minutes to Alex's house in Riverside Estates. That's what they call their neighborhood. Estates. Like they're landed gentry instead of middle-class Americans with adjustable-rate mortgages. I usually brought something with me. An apple pie I'd baked that morning. A batch of Ethan's favorite chocolate chip cookies. Sometimes flowers from Margaret's garden. Small gestures that said, I'm grateful you include me. At first, those dinners were lovely. Ethan would run to the door when he heard my car, all gap-toothed smiles and skinned knees. Grandma, I drew you a picture. He'd pull me inside his small hand in mine, chattering about school and friends and the frog he'd found in the backyard. We'd eat at their dining table, a beautiful oak piece I'd given them as a wedding gift. Vanessa would cook something ambitious she'd seen on a cooking show. Alex would pour wine and tell stories about his work in pharmaceutical sales. I'd sit between Ethan and Alex, feeling like I belonged. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things changed. I didn't notice at first. That's how these things work, isn't it? Like a shoreline eroding. Each wave takes so little sand that you don't see the difference. But after enough waves, you look up one day, and the beach is gone. The first time Alex used my credit card for something that wasn't an emergency, I didn't even know about it until the statement came. A charge for $2,100 at Best Buy. I called him, gently. Honey, I saw a large charge on the card. Was there an emergency? Oh, that. His voice was casual, unbothered. The TV died, Mom. 42-inch screen just went black. We needed a new one and there was a sale. I figured it was okay since you said I could use it. For emergencies, I reminded him, trying to keep my tone light. This was an emergency. What were we supposed to do, stare at a blank wall every night? I didn't have an answer for that. So I said it was fine. What else could I say? Make him feel guilty. Create tension over a television. The charges continued. $890 at Whole Foods. Groceries are so expensive now, Mom. You wouldn't believe what organic produce costs. $340 at the Shell station. Gas prices are insane. My job requires a lot of driving. $1,200 at a designer outlet. That one was Vanessa. She works hard, Mom. She deserves to treat herself sometimes. Each time I told myself it wasn't that bad. They had expenses. Life was expensive. I had it easier at their age. Margaret and I built our savings slowly, but we didn't have student loans or childcare costs or the pressure to keep up with everyone else's Instagram perfect lives. But then came the mortgage. 3 months after I co-signed the refinance, I noticed something strange on my bank statement. A recurring withdrawal of $2,400 on the 15th of every month. I called the bank. There must be a mistake, I said. No mistake, Mrs. Hayes, the representative said. That's an automatic payment set up for a mortgage account. You're listed as the primary payer. Primary payer? My voice sounded strange in my own ears. Distant. I'm a co-signer, not a payer. Papers rustled on the other end of the line. According to our records, when you signed the refinance agreement, you agreed to be responsible for payments if the primary borrower defaulted. It looks like... Yes, here it is. Your son set up an automatic transfer from your savings account to cover the monthly payments. That was authorized by you when you signed. I didn't authorize any automatic transfer. I'm looking at the agreement now, Mrs. Hayes. Your signature is on page 7, section 3B. I was silent. I'd signed so many papers that day in Alex's kitchen, Alex flipping pages and pointing where to sign while Ethan colored at the table. Just here, Mom. And here. Initial here. Great, just one more. I never read them. I trusted him. Mrs. Hayes, are you still there? How long has this been going on? I whispered. The automatic payments, 18 months. 18 months. $2,400. Every single month. That's $43,200. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely find my car keys. No, that's wrong. I wasn't in my car. I was in my kitchen where I'd made the call. But my mind felt scattered like someone had taken all my thoughts and thrown them in the air, and they were still floating, refusing to land in any order that made sense. I sat down heavily in Margaret's chair. The springs creaked in that familiar way. He used to sit here and read to me while I cooked dinner. Poetry sometimes. Mary Oliver, Billy Collins. He had a beautiful voice. Margaret, I whispered to the empty room, what have I done? But I knew what I'd done. I'd let it happen. Every time I said yes when I should have said wait. Every time I told myself it was fine when it wasn't fine. Every time I chose being easy over being honest. That night I couldn't sleep. I went to the filing cabinet in the spare bedroom, Margaret's old office. We kept all our important papers there. Tax returns, insurance policies, medical records. And now I realized evidence of my own slow erasure. I pulled out the file labeled Alex Financial. The folder was thick, thicker than I remembered. I spread the contents across Margaret's old desk, and in the yellow glow of his brass lamp I began to count. April 2022, $1,200. Car repair, May 2022, $3,500. Ethan's school program, July 2022, $2,800. Air conditioning unit, August 2022, $890. Credit card charges, groceries, September 2022, $1.450. Credit card charges, back to school shopping, October 2022, $675. Car insurance. The list went on and on. By the time I finished, dawn was breaking through the curtains. Birds were singing. The world was waking up like it was just another normal Tuesday. But nothing felt normal. Total over 3 years, $147,000. $147,000. My savings account, which had held $185,000 when Margaret died, now held $38,000. At this rate, I'd be broke in 18 months. I'd be 75 years old with no cushion, no safety net, nothing but Social Security and Medicare, and the hope that I wouldn't get sick or need care or face any of the 1,000 small catastrophes that come with aging. And Alex, my son, my firstborn, the baby I'd rocked through colicky nights and cheered through Little League games and helped move into his first apartment, Alex had no idea, or worse, he didn't care. I pressed my palms against the cool wood of Margaret's desk. These were the hands that had built things, this house, our family, a life. And now these same hands were trembling as they touched proof of how far I'd let myself fade. I thought about Margaret, about what he'd say if he were here. Actually, I knew what he'd say, because he'd said it once years ago when Alex asked to borrow money for a down payment on his first car. We'd been in bed, the lights off, and I'd told Margaret I was thinking of lending Alex $5,000. Margaret had been quiet for a long moment. Then he'd said softly, "Charlie, he was the only one who called me that. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach him to fish, he eats for life. But if you keep giving him fish, he forgets how to fish. And eventually he forgets you're not the ocean." I'd laughed it off then. Made the loan anyway. Alex paid it back over 2 years, mostly on time. But Margaret had been right. I'd become the ocean Alex swam in without even noticing I was there. And now the ocean was running dry. I stood up from the desk. My reflection caught in the window a gray-haired woman in her nightgown shoulders, bent eyes tired. When had I started looking so old? No, not old, defeated. But as I stood there watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, something else moved inside me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger, not yet. Something steadier than anger. A quiet, growing resolve. I walked downstairs and put the kettle on. While it heated, I found a piece of paper and a pen. My hands were steadier now, purposeful. At the top of the page, I wrote, "No more." Under that, I made a list. 1. Call bank. Freeze all accounts Alex has access to. 2. Remove Alex and Vanessa from credit cards. 3. Cancel automatic mortgage payments. 4. Request removal as mortgage cosigner. 5. Close all secondary account access. 6. Change all passwords. I looked at the list for a long time. Each item felt like a door closing, and closing doors I knew would hurt. It would hurt me. It would hurt Alex. It might hurt Ethan, though I'd do everything I could to protect him from the fallout. But some doors need to close so new ones can open. The kettle whistled. I made my tea, sat at the dining table, and watched the morning light fill my kitchen. "Okay, Margaret," I whispered. "I'm ready now. I'm ready to stop being the ocean." Before I tell you about the dinner that broke everything, you need to understand what those Sunday dinners meant to me, because that's the only way you'll understand why it hurt so much when they fell apart. For 3 years, every Sunday at 6 o'clock, I'd arrive at Alex's house with my small offerings: a pie, cookies, flowers, my presents wrapped in flour and sugar and hope. Ethan would usually see me first. He had this way of pressing his face against the front window watching for my car. The moment I pulled into the driveway, he'd disappear from the window, and seconds later the front door would fly open. "Grandma?" He'd run down the steps sometimes forgetting his shoes and throw himself at my legs in a hug that nearly knocked me over. "Careful, sweetheart." I'd laugh, steadying myself against my car. "Grandma's not as sturdy as she used to be." "Yes, you are," he'd insist, squeezing tighter. "You're the sturdiest grandma ever." God, I loved that boy. He'd grab my hand, his small and warm in mine, and pull me inside, talking so fast his words tripped over each other. "Grandma, guess what? I got an A on my spelling test, and Coach said I'm getting really good at batting, and Mom says we might get a puppy, but Dad says we can't afford it. But I'm saving my allowance and—" "Ethan." Vanessa's voice would cut through his chatter. "Let Grandma breathe. She just got here." Vanessa would be in the kitchen, usually wearing something expensive casual. Athleisure, I think they call it. Matching sets that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Her hair always perfect. Makeup subtle but clearly there. "Hi, Charlotte," she'd say. Never Mom, never even Mother. Just Charlotte, like I was a neighbor who'd stopped by, not the woman who'd birthed and raised her husband. "Hello, Vanessa. Something smells wonderful." "I'm trying a new recipe. Herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables. I hope it's not too heavy for you." Too heavy for me. As if being 73 meant I could only digest oatmeal and applesauce. "I'm sure it'll be lovely." Alex would usually appear from his home office phone, in hand attention divided. "Hey, Mom," a quick hug, already distracted. "Give me 10 minutes. I need to finish this email." "Of course, honey. Take your time." But he never really stopped. The phone stayed in his hand through dinner, face down on the table, but buzzing periodically. His attention was always somewhere else. A client, a deal, the next thing. At first, I'd get a proper seat at the table, the chair across from Alex next to Ethan. I could reach the serving dishes. I could participate in conversations. I felt included. But slowly my seat migrated, first to the end of the table. "Mom, you don't mind sitting here, do you? We need room for the centerpiece Vanessa bought." Then to a different chair. "That one's wobbly. Here, use this one from the hallway." Then to the corner where the kitchen door kept swinging open and bumping my chair. "Sorry, Charlotte," Vanessa would say, not sounding sorry at all. "I need to get to the stove." I told myself it didn't matter. I was there. That's what counted. But it did matter. Each small shift, each tiny reduction in space added up. I felt myself shrinking. Not just physically sitting in a smaller space, but actually shrinking. My voice got quieter. My opinions got softer. My presence got lighter until I felt like I might blow away completely. The food changed too. At first, I got the same meals everyone else got. Beautiful plates of whatever Vanessa had spent the afternoon preparing. But gradually, my portions got smaller. The best pieces went to Alex. The biggest helpings to Vanessa. Ethan got extra because he was growing. And me whatever was left. "I wasn't sure you'd want this much, Charlotte," Vanessa would say, placing a modest portion in front of me. "At your age, metabolism slows down. Don't want you uncomfortable." I'd smile and say it was plenty. Because what else could I say? That I was still hungry, that I'd like the same generous portions everyone else enjoyed, That being 73 didn't make me a different species. The conversations excluded me, too. They'd talk about shows I didn't watch on streaming services I didn't have, about social media drama I didn't understand, about vacation plans to places I'd never been. "Mom wouldn't be interested in this," Alex would say when I tried to join in. "It's just work stuff. Boring." But he'd keep talking about it. For 20 minutes. While I sat there invisible. Ethan was the only one who still saw me. He'd scoot his chair closer to mine, share his bread roll, whisper jokes that made me laugh. "Grandma, watch this," he'd say, and make a silly face that only I could see. Sometimes Vanessa would notice and call him back to attention. "Ethan, sit properly. Focus on your food." But when she wasn't looking, he'd wink at me. Our secret language. After dinner, Alex would disappear to his office. "Just need to send a few more emails, Mom. You understand." Vanessa would start clearing plates, everyone's but mine. I'd sit there still eating while she worked around me. The message was clear: finish quickly. We have things to do. I'd help with dishes, even though they had a dishwasher. Vanessa would let me wash while she put things away, directing me like I didn't know how to clean a pot. "Make sure you get the corners. These pans are expensive." "Yes, I know, honey. I've been washing dishes since before you were born." She'd give me a look, the kind that said maybe that's the problem. By 7:30, I'd be putting on my coat, hugging Ethan goodbye while Alex shouted from his office, "Bye, Mom, drive safe. No walking me to the car. No standing on the porch until I pulled away." Just a voice from another room. The drive home took 25 minutes, but it felt longer. The silence in my car was heavier than the silence in my house. Because at home I was alone by circumstance. In my car I was alone by choice, theirs. But I kept going back. Every Sunday, 6 o'clock. Because they were my family. Because I loved them. Because I thought if I just kept showing up, kept being present, kept loving them, eventually they'd really see me again. I thought love was enough. I didn't realize that love without respect is just a different kind of loneliness. The Sunday that changed everything started like all the others. It was mid-November. The air had that crisp bite that makes you reach for sweaters. Margaret's roses had finished blooming for the season, but I'd picked up a small bouquet at the grocery store. Bright yellow mums. Cheerful. I'd spent the morning baking an apple pie, Margaret's recipe, the one with cinnamon, and a hint of nutmeg that made the whole house smell like comfort. I wrapped it carefully in aluminum foil, still warm from the oven. Before I left, I stood in front of the hallway mirror adjusting my sweater. It was one Margaret had bought me for Christmas 2 years before he died. Soft blue wool, my favorite color. I wanted to look nice, put together, like I mattered. The drive to Alex's house was beautiful. Late afternoon sun painting everything gold. Trees showing off their autumn colors. I had the radio on low classical music, Margaret's preference, that had become mine. My chest felt tight, but I told myself it was just the cold air. Just getting older. Just nothing. But bodies know things before minds do. And my body knew this dinner would be different. I pulled into their driveway at 5:57, 3 minutes early. I sat in the car for those 3 minutes watching the house. Lights on in every window, warm and golden and alive. I could see shadows moving inside. My family. At exactly 6 o'clock, I got out carrying the pie in one hand and the flowers in the other. I knocked and knocked and knocked again. Finally, the door opened. Vanessa stood there, iPad in hand, eyes glued to the screen. She looked up startled, as if she'd forgotten someone was supposed to arrive. "Oh, Charlotte, I didn't realize it was already 6. Not come in? Not we've been waiting for you?" Just surprised that I'd arrived at the time we'd agreed on for 3 years. "Right on time," I said, keeping my voice light. "I brought pie." "Great." She stepped aside, still looking at her iPad. We already sat down. Ethan was starving. I stepped inside. The house smelled amazing, roasted meat, herbs, warm bread. My stomach rumbled, reminding me I'd skipped lunch to have room for dinner. The dining room was full. Alex sat at the head of the table, cutting into a beautiful piece of steak. Vanessa's seat had a full plate meat, roasted potatoes, vegetables, glistening with butter, a thick slice of bread. Ethan sat between them, already eating, face focused on his food. Every seat was full, every plate already served. Steam still rising from the food. And not a single spot for me. I stood in the doorway holding my pie and flowers, and for just a moment I felt like I'd walked into the wrong house. Like this was someone else's family having dinner, and I was an intruder. But Alex looked up and saw me. "Oh crap. Mom," he glanced at Vanessa. "We forgot to set a place." We forgot. Like I was an afterthought. Like my arrival every Sunday at 6 o'clock for 3 years was so unmemorable that it slipped their minds. Vanessa grabbed the folding chair from the closet, Alex said, already turning back to his steak. Vanessa actually sighed, and set down her fork. "Again, didn't we say we'd get a bigger table? Just grab the chair." She left, and I stood there still holding the pie, watching my family eat. Ethan looked up at me, and something passed across his face. Confusion, sadness. But then Vanessa called from the hallway, and he looked down at his plate. Vanessa returned with a folding chair, metal wobbly, the kind you use for overflow guests at parties. She set it up in the corner right where the kitchen door swung open, half blocking the walkway, half in the draft from the heating vent. "Here you go, Charlotte." "Thank you," I said quietly. I set the pie on the counter and the flowers beside it. Nobody commented on either. I sat in the folding chair, the metal cold through my slacks. My knees didn't quite fit under the table. I had to sit at an angle. No plate waited for me. No silverware. No napkin. I sat there watching them eat, waiting for someone to notice. Finally, Alex looked over. "Mom, your plate's on the counter. I think Vanessa made you one earlier." I turned and saw it. A plate on the far counter by itself. The food long cold. The meat gray and dried at the edges. The potatoes congealed into stiff lumps. A sad little portion that looked like it had been scraped from the bottom of the serving dishes. "Oh," I said. "Thank you." I got up the folding chair squeaking and retrieved my plate. Carried it back to my corner seat. Set it down. Everyone else was eating food that still steamed. Steak so tender it fell apart under their forks. Potatoes fluffy and golden. Vegetables bright and fresh. I cut into my meat. It resisted the knife. When I finally sawed through, the inside was cold. The texture tough and stringy. "Seasoning's not too strong for you, right, Charlotte?" Vanessa asked without looking at me. "I know older people have sensitive stomachs." "It's fine," I said. "Thank you for cooking." She didn't respond. I ate my cold dinner in my corner seat, the kitchen door bumping my chair every time Vanessa went back for something. I chewed slowly, trying to make the food smaller, warmer better, through sheer force of will. Around me, conversation flowed. "So the Bahamas trip," Alex said. "I confirmed the booking. Ocean View Suite, private balcony, the works." "Perfect," Vanessa said. "Ethan, you're going to love it. White sand beaches, crystal clear water." "When are we going?" Ethan asked. "February, right after your winter break." $4,500, I thought. That's how much that trip costs. I know because I saw it on my credit card statement last month. "And the contractor's coming Monday," Vanessa continued, "for the kitchen renovation." "Already scheduled the payment," Alex said. "Should auto-deduct from Mom's account Tuesday." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Mom's account. Like it was a communal resource. Like my money existed specifically to fund their lifestyle. "Perfect," Vanessa said again. "And the credit card bill, same account. It'll go through Friday." They were discussing my finances at dinner while I sat 10 feet away, like I wasn't even there. Or worse, like I was there, but it didn't matter. Like my presence didn't mean I deserved consultation or respect or even basic acknowledgement that they were spending my money. I set my fork down carefully. My hands were shaking. Nobody noticed. Alex stood up to clear some plates. He walked around the table collecting dishes. Vanessa's, Ethan's, his own. He walked right past me. My plate was still half full, but he didn't see it. Didn't see me. I sat there, food going colder, watching my son clear a table that apparently didn't include me. "Mom," Ethan whispered. He'd scooted his chair closer. "Do you want some of my bread?" "No, sweetheart, I'm fine." "Your food looks cold." "It's okay, honey." Vanessa's voice cut through. "Ethan, sit properly. Don't lean over like that." He sat back up, but his eyes stayed on me, worried. At 8 years old, he could see what the adults refused to. Dessert came next. A chocolate tart from Bella's Bakery, $45 I knew because I'd seen that charge too. Rich, glossy, perfect. Vanessa cut 4 slices. Thick, generous pieces for herself, Alex, and Ethan. Then she cut a 5th slice. Thin. A sliver, really. Maybe a quarter of what everyone else got. She put it on a small plate and set it in front of me. "Wasn't sure you'd want much, Charlotte," she said. You mentioned watching your sugar last time. I never mentioned any such thing. This is fine, I said. Thank you. I ate my sliver of dessert in 4 small bites while everyone else savored their generous portions. The chocolate was good, rich and dark and smooth, but I barely tasted it. By 7:15, I was putting my coat on. Alex walked me to the door, phone in hand, already typing an email. Drive safe, Mom, he said, not looking up. No hug. No, I'm glad you came. No, see you next week. Just drive safe, delivered to his phone screen. I stood there for a moment waiting, hoping he'd look up, make eye contact, see me. He didn't. Good night, Alex, I said quietly. Night. I walked to my car, got in, and sat with my hands on the steering wheel. The house glowed behind me, warm and bright and full of life. My family was in there, probably already moving on with their evening, clearing the rest of the dishes, maybe watching TV, living their lives. And I was outside in the dark, in the cold alone. For 3 years I'd paid for that warmth, that house, that food, those lights. I'd kept everything running smoothly, quietly, without asking for anything in return except to be included. And they'd given me a folding chair and cold leftovers. I drove home in silence. No radio, no thoughts, just the sound of tires on pavement and my own breath in the dark. When I pulled into my driveway, I didn't get out right away. I sat there looking at my house, dark, because I'd left before sunset, empty, because I lived alone, quiet, because there was no one to make noise. But in that moment, it felt more welcoming than the house I'd just left. I went inside, turned on every light, and stood in my living room. Then I said something I hadn't expected to say, something that came from a place so deep I hadn't known it existed. I won't keep disappearing for them. My voice sounded different, steadier, stronger. I won't, and for the first time in 3 years, I meant it. When I got home that night, the house felt different. Not the gentle quiet I'd grown used to, but something heavier. A silence with weight, like the air itself knew something inside me had shifted. I didn't turn on all the lights like I'd promised myself. Just the hallway lamp and the small light over the kitchen sink. The kind of lighting that feels honest. No shadows hidden, but no harsh truths illuminated either. My hands found the back of Margaret's chair, and I lowered myself slowly into it. The springs creaked in that familiar way, a sound I'd heard 10,000 times, but tonight it felt different. Like the chair was saying, welcome back. I've been waiting. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger would have been simpler, cleaner. This was something else. A hollow ache slowly filling the space where denial used to live. Disappointment doesn't arrive all at once. It settles in thin layers. Quiet, patient, suffocating. First on your heart, then on your memories, then on the way you see yourself in your own family. I sat there in Margaret's chair, letting old memories float forward. Alex, at 5 years old, running into my arms after his first day of kindergarten, smelling of crayons and playground dust. Mommy, I made a friend. His name is Tommy, and he has a robot lunchbox. Alex at 10, crying in this very kitchen because he'd struck out 3 times at his Little League game. I'd held him and said, baby, you know what baseball teaches us, that failure is just practice for success. He'd looked up at me with those huge brown eyes, Margaret's eyes, and said, you always know what to say, Mom. Alex, at 17, the night before he left for college, sitting at the kitchen table at midnight. I'm scared, Mom. What if I'm not ready? And I'd taken his hand and said, you're ready because we made you ready. Your dad and I, we gave you everything you need. Now go show the world what you can do. When had that boy, the one who saw me as his hero, his comfort, his safe place, turned into the man who couldn't even give me a warm plate at his table? I got up and walked to the kitchen. My body moved on autopilot while my mind stayed somewhere else. The kettle went on the stove. Water from the tap. The click of the gas burner igniting. While I waited for the water to boil, I opened the filing cabinet. The drawer stuck for a second before giving way just like it always had. Margaret always meant to fix it. I'll oil those tracks this weekend, Charlie, he'd say. But there was always something else, some other project, and then he was gone and the drawer still stuck, and now I was glad it did. That little bit of resistance felt right, like the cabinet was asking, are you sure? Do you really want to see? Yes, I was sure. Inside were decades of careful records. Margaret had been meticulous about paperwork. A life well documented is a life well lived, he used to say. Tax returns going back to 1985. Insurance policies in labeled folders. medical records, mortgage papers from when we first bought this house paid off now, thankfully. And near the front, a thick folder labeled Alex, Financial. I pulled it out and carried it to the kitchen table. The kettle was whistling, screaming really the way it did when you let it go too long. I poured water over a tea bag, Earl Grey always. Earl Grey, and sat down with the folder. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The first document was from April 2022, a check I'd written for $1,200. The memo line said car repair. I remembered that call. Alex's voice tight with stress. Mom, I'm stranded at the mechanic. The transmission is shot. I don't get paid until Friday. Of course, honey, I'll transfer it right now. Thanks, Mom. I'll pay you back. He never did. Next, a credit card statement from August 2022. Charges highlighted in yellow my system for tracking what Alex had spent. $2,100 at Best Buy, $890 at Whole Foods, $340 at Shell, $675 at Target. Total for that month, $4,005. I kept going. September, October, November. Each month a new statement, a new total, a new set of charges that I'd somehow justified to myself. They need groceries. Gas is expensive. Electronics break. It's for Ethan. Always a reason. Always an excuse. Always me telling myself it was temporary, it was helping, it was what mothers do. By December 2022, I'd reached the mortgage co-signer papers. I spread them out on the table, all 7 pages. My signature on page 7, section 3B, right where Alex had told me to sign. Just here, Mom. Initial here. Great, just one more. I'd never read it. Not one word. The document was dense with legal language, but one paragraph stood out now, highlighted by my past self with a yellow marker. The co-signer acknowledges full financial responsibility for all mortgage payments in the event of default, late payment, or at the request of the primary borrower. The co-signer authorizes automatic withdrawal from designated accounts to cover monthly obligations as outlined in Addendum C. Addendum C. I flipped to it. There in smaller print. Primary borrower, Alex Hayes, designates savings account number 4782, Charlotte Hayes, for automatic monthly withdrawal of mortgage payment, $2,400 beginning February 15, 2023. My stomach dropped. I hadn't authorized a backup payment. I'd authorized the only payment. Alex's name was on the mortgage, but my account was paying it. Every month. For 18 months. $43,200. I stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. My tea sloshed over the rim of the cup, burning my hand. I didn't care. I went back to the filing cabinet and pulled out my savings account statements. Started laying them out in chronological order across the kitchen table, the counter, the chairs. Margaret died in January 2022. That month, my savings account balance, $185,430. By December 2022, $156,720 years. By December 2023, 98 hours, $450. And now November 2024, 38 hours, $190. I had to sit back down. My legs wouldn't hold me. $147,240. Gone. In less than 3 years, I'd given Alex almost $150,000. More than Margaret and I had saved in the first 15 years of our marriage. More than I'd spent on both kids' college tuitions combined. More than the down payment we'd made on this house. And the worst part, the part that made my chest actually hurt like something was squeezing my heart, was that Alex probably didn't even know. He probably hadn't added it up, hadn't thought about it, hadn't considered what it was costing me. Because I'd made it so easy. Every time he needed something, I said yes. No questions, no limits, no conversation about whether he could actually afford his lifestyle, or if maybe, just maybe, he should scale back. I'd taught him that my money was his money, that my savings were his safety net, that I would always be there, always say yes, always make everything okay. And in doing so, I'd taught him that I didn't matter. My tea had gone cold. I wrapped my hands around the cup anyway, needing something to hold on to. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. 9:47 p.m. Margaret's reading glasses were still on the windowsill where he'd left them 3 years ago. I'd never moved them. Sometimes I'd pick them up, hold them, try to remember what his face looked like when he wore them. "What would you do, Margaret?" I whispered to the empty room. But I knew what he'd do. I'd always known. Margaret had been kind, but he wasn't soft. He had boundaries. He'd loved our kids fiercely, but he'd never let them walk over him. When Lauren was 23 and asked to move back home just for a few months, after quitting her job without another one lined up, Margaret had said no. "She needs to figure this out herself, Charlie," he'd told me when I protested. "If we catch her every time she falls, she'll never learn to watch her step." Lauren had been furious. Didn't speak to us for 2 months. But she'd figured it out. Found a new job, a roommate, an apartment. Built her own life. And now she was successful, independent, genuinely happy. Because Margaret had loved her enough to let her struggle. I'd forgotten that lesson with Alex. Or maybe I'd never learned it to begin with. Maybe losing Margaret had made me so desperate to hold on to the family I had left that I'd stopped being a mother and become a bank instead. I stood up and walked to the living room window. Rain had started falling, tapping gently against the glass. Thin, silvery lines streaking down, catching the streetlight's glow. The cold dinner, the forgotten chair, the casual conversation about Mom's account, like I was a public utility, not a person. They all replayed in my mind with a clarity that sliced through the last excuses I'd been holding. "I didn't raise him to treat me like this," I said aloud. My voice sounded tired, older than I felt inside. But beneath the exhaustion, something else moved. Something steadier. It didn't shout, didn't push. It simply settled somewhere deep in my chest, firm and unshakable. I walked back to the kitchen table and placed both hands flat on the scattered papers. Bank statements, credit card bills, mortgage documents, check stubs. My entire financial life spread out like evidence at a crime scene. Except I wasn't the victim. I was the accomplice. "No more," I said softly. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I wasn't losing my family. I had already lost pieces of myself to keep them comfortable. Found a clean sheet of paper and a pen. At the top, in capital letters, I wrote. Under that, a list. 1. Call bank Monday morning. Freeze all accounts. 2. Remove Alex and Vanessa from all credit cards. 3. Cancel automatic mortgage payments immediately. 4. Request removal as co-signer. Speak to lawyer if needed. 5. Close all secondary access to accounts. 6. Change every password. 7. Set up new account. Alex cannot access. I looked at the list for a long time. Each item felt like closing a door, and closing doors I knew would hurt. It would hurt me facing the truth of what our relationship had become. It would hurt Alex suddenly having to face his own financial reality. It might hurt Ethan caught in the middle of adult problems he shouldn't have to understand. But some doors need to close so better ones can open. I sat in Margaret's chair, my chair now I supposed, and let the weight of that truth settle. The rain softened outside. The house exhaled with me. Somewhere between the quiet and the memories I felt it. A shift. Subtle but real. A thought taking shape. A plan forming in the calm after disappointment. This wasn't an eating. It was a beginning. A new life disguised as a loss. I don't know what tomorrow will look like. I murmured into the dim room. But it won't look like this. And for the first time in years, I believed myself. I went upstairs, got ready for bed, and slid under the covers. Margaret's side was still empty, would always be empty, but tonight it felt less lonely. I turned off the light and closed my eyes, and for the first time since that awful dinner, I slept deeply, peacefully, like a woman who'd finally stopped running from the truth. I woke before dawn, not because I couldn't sleep, but because my body knew something had changed. The bedroom was still dark, just the faintest hint of gray light creeping around the curtains. I lay there for a moment, testing the feeling in my chest. No heaviness, no dread, no knot of anxiety about what the day would bring. Just calm. I got out of bed slowly, my knees complaining as usual, and went to the window. Pulled back the curtains. The street was empty, the sky that particular shade of pre-dawn blue that's almost purple. A single bird was singing somewhere greeting the day. "Good morning to you, too," I whispered. In the kitchen, I made coffee instead of tea. Coffee felt like action, like forward motion. I ground the beans fresh, something I only did on special occasions, and the smell filled the kitchen rich and dark and promising. While it brewed, I went back upstairs and stood in front of my closet. For 3 years, I'd been dressing like I was apologizing for existing. Soft colors, loose fits, nothing that drew attention. Old woman clothes as if I'd accepted that's all I was. But this morning I reached past the beige cardigans and pulled out the wool blazer Margaret had bought me for our 40th anniversary. Deep navy blue, tailored expensive. I'd only worn it twice, once to receive an award at the library where I'd volunteered for 20 years, and once to Lauren's graduation from nursing school. Too fancy for a regular day, I told Margaret when he bought it. Nothing's too fancy for you, Charlie, he'd replied. You deserve to feel like you matter every day, not just special occasions. I put it on over a cream blouse, added the silver earrings Lauren sent me last Christmas, looked at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back didn't look 73. She looked present, real, like someone who took up space on purpose. Hello, I said to my reflection. I've missed you. I drank my coffee at the kitchen table, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. My list from last night sat beside me, and I reviewed it while the world woke up. The bank opened at 9. I'd be there at 9:01, but first I needed to make a call. At 7:30, I dialed Lauren's number. She'd be getting ready for her shift, but she always answered when I called. Mom. Her voice was warm, slightly rushed. Is everything okay? You don't usually call this early. Everything's fine, honey. Better than fine, actually. Do you have a few minutes? For you always. Let me just hold on. Sounds of movement, a door closing. Okay, I'm in the break room. What's going on? You sound different. I need to tell you something. About Alex. I heard her sigh. What did he do now? You know, Mom. Her voice was gentle but firm. I've known for a while that he's been taking advantage. I didn't say anything because, well, you seem determined not to see it. And I live so far away. I didn't know how to help. My throat tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? She was right. I wouldn't have. I would have defended Alex, made excuses, changed the subject. Probably not, I admitted. But I'm listening now. I told her everything. The dinner, the cold plate, the corner seat, the conversation about Mom's account, and finally the number. $147,000. Lauren was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. Mom. Oh, Mom. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me, honey. I let it happen. No, he took advantage of you when you were grieving. That's not the same thing as letting it happen. Maybe, but I'm not helpless. I made choices. Bad ones, but mine. So what are you going to do? I looked at my list. I'm taking it all back. Every account, every card, every automatic payment. Today. Good. Lauren's voice was fierce. He needs to learn. And Mom, yes, I'm proud of you. Dad would be too. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, baby. Call me after you go to the bank. I want to know how it goes. I will. And Mom, if you need anything, money support, a place to stay, you tell me. Immediately. Promise. I promise, but I won't need it. I still have enough. For now. After we hung up, I sat with the phone in my hand, feeling lighter. Lauren knew. Lauren understood. I wasn't alone in this. At 8:45, I got my purse, my folder of documents, and my car keys. Drove the 15 minutes to First National Bank, where Margaret and I had done our banking for 35 years. The parking lot was nearly empty. I pulled into a spot right by the door and sat for a moment, gathering courage. This was real now. Once I walked through those doors, there was no taking it back. Good, I said aloud. I don't want to take it back. The bank smelled like it always did, paper and carpet cleaner, and something else I could never quite identify. Professional anxiety, maybe. Rebecca Martinez was already at her desk when I walked in. She'd been our account manager for 15 years, had helped us set up our retirement accounts, refinance the house, navigate Margaret's estate after he died. She looked up and smiled. Mrs. Hayes, what a lovely surprise. Then her expression shifted, noticing something in my face. Is everything all right? Actually, Rebecca, I need your help with something important. Do you have time? For you? Absolutely. Come sit down. I settled into the chair across from her desk, comfortable leather designed to make people feel safe while discussing their money. I placed my folder on her desk. I need to make some changes to my accounts, significant ones. Rebecca pulled out a notepad. Of course. What are we looking at? I opened the folder and began laying out papers. Bank statements, credit card bills, the mortgage documents, check after check after check. Rebecca's professional smile slowly faded as she reviewed them. Her eyes widened when she got to the mortgage papers. "Charlotte," she looked up at me. "These automatic withdrawals, they total over $4,000 a month." "I know." "And they're all going to your son's accounts or covering his expenses." "Yes." "For how long?" "Almost 3 years." Rebecca sat back in her chair. She'd been trained not to show emotion about clients' financial decisions, but I could see the shock in her eyes. "Do you want to adjust the amounts, set limits?" "No." My voice was steady, calm. "I want them stopped. All of them. Immediately." Rebecca picked up her pen. "Okay, let's go through them one by one." First, the automatic mortgage payment. "This one withdraws $2,400 on the 15th of each month," Rebecca said, typing. "I can suspend it right now, but Mrs. Hayes, you're listed as co-signer. Stopping the payments could affect your credit if the mortgage defaults." "I understand. Stop it anyway. I'll deal with the co-signer issue separately." More typing. "Done. The next scheduled payment on December 15th will not process." A weight lifted off my chest. $2,400. Staying in my account. Mine. Second credit card access. "I see your son Alex is listed as an authorized user on 2 credit cards, combined limit of $35,000. I want him removed from both. Today. I'll need you to sign authorization forms." She pulled up documents on her computer, printed them, slid them across the desk. I signed without hesitation. My handwriting looked stronger than it had in years. "Done," Rebecca said. "He'll no longer be able to use these cards or view the statements. The current balances will remain on your account." She checked. "That's $21,300 total." $21,000. Alex had charged $21,000 that I'd been paying off minimum payment by minimum payment, the interest compounding every month. "Can you transfer that balance to a new card, one he doesn't know about?" "Absolutely. I can set up a new card with a temporary zero-interest balance transfer. Give you 18 months to pay it off without additional interest." "Do it." Third checking account access. "Alex has view-only access to your primary checking account," Rebecca said. "No ability to withdraw, but he can see all transactions and balances. Remove it." "Are you sure this means he won't be able to help you manage?" "I don't need help managing my own money, Rebecca. I need privacy." She nodded. "Understood." Removed. Fourth savings account withdrawal authorization. "This is interesting," Rebecca said, frowning at her screen. "There's a standing authorization for Alex to request transfers from your savings account up to $5,000 without requiring your approval each time." My hands clenched in my lap. "I never authorized that." "I'm looking at the paperwork. It was set up in March 2023. There's a signature." "Let me see." She turned the screen. There was my signature on a form titled Convenience Transfer Authorization. I remembered now Alex had brought it to me one Sunday. "Just a formality, Mom, so I can help you move money around if you need it. Makes things easier." Makes things easier for him to take it, he meant. "Delete it. Now." Deleting. Click. Done. Fifth new account security. "Rebecca, I want to set up a new savings account. One Alex doesn't know exists. Transfer what's left in my current savings." I checked the latest statement. $38,190. "Smart," Rebecca said, typing. "I'll set it up with maximum security. 2-factor authentication. No joint access. No authorized users. Password-protected statements." Perfect. We worked through the details. New account number. New passwords. New security questions answers that Alex couldn't possibly guess because they had nothing to do with our family history. Security question. "What was your first pet's name?" Real answer, Button's a tabby cat. My answer, Thunderbolt. No one would guess that. Not even me, probably in 6 months. I wrote it down in a small notebook I'd brought specifically for this purpose. Finally, Rebecca sat back. "That's everything. All automatic payments stopped. All account access removed. New security measures in place." She looked at me with something like admiration. "Mrs. Hayes, this is a very brave thing you're doing." "Not brave," I said. "Necessary." "May I ask what prompted this? You and Alex have had these arrangements for years." I thought about the cold plate, the corner seat, the casual discussion of my finances like I wasn't even there. "I realized I was disappearing," I said quietly, "and I decided I'd rather be alone than invisible." Rebecca's eyes got shiny. She blinked quickly. Well, you're certainly not invisible now. Do you expect pushback? Oh, I'm sure of it. His mortgage payment is due in 2 weeks. His credit cards will decline. He's going to panic. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Was I prepared for Alex to be angry, confused, maybe even hateful? Yes, because the alternative was continuing to disappear until there was nothing left of me but an open checkbook. I'm prepared, I said. Rebecca printed out several copies of all the new account information and authorization forms, put them in a folder for me, walked me to the door. Mrs. Hayes Charlotte. She touched my arm gently. If you ever need anything, you call me directly. And I think your husband would be very proud of you today. My throat tightened. Thank you, Rebecca. That means more than you know. I walked out of the bank into the late morning sunshine. The air smelled clean, like the world had been rinsed of something heavy overnight. In my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine, looked at the folder of paperwork in my passenger seat, proof that I still existed as a separate person, as someone with boundaries, as someone who mattered. My phone buzzed, a text from Lauren. How'd it go? I typed back. It's done. Everything's closed. I feel free. 3 dots appeared immediately. So proud of you, Mom. Love you. Love you too, sweetheart. I started the car and drove home. Classical music on the radio. Windows down despite the November chill. My hair blowing everywhere and not caring even a little bit. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat for a moment just looking at my house. The house I'd bought with Margaret. The house I'd raised my children in. The house that was paid for, owned free and clear mine. And for the first time in 3 years, it felt like a sanctuary instead of a memory. The first call came at 2:47 that afternoon. I was in the garden pulling up the last of the season's weeds when my phone rang from the porch where I'd left it. I almost didn't answer, but something made me dust off my gloves and check the screen. Alex. I let it ring. 4 times. 5. 6. Finally, it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time I answered. Hi, Alex. Mom. His voice was tight, confused. Something's wrong with my credit card. It got declined at the gas station. Can you call the bank? Might be some kind of security hold. I kept my voice calm. There's no hold, honey. I removed you as an authorized user this morning. Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. What? I removed your access to my credit cards and several other accounts. Why would you do that? He sounded genuinely baffled, like I'd done something incomprehensible. Because they're my accounts, Alex, not ours. Mine. But we've had this arrangement for years, Mom. What's going on? Are you feeling okay? There it was. The implication that I must be confused, sick, not in my right mind. Because what else could explain me taking control of my own finances? I'm feeling better than I have in a long time, actually. Did someone tell you to do this? Is Lauren in your ear about something? No one told me anything. I made this decision myself. Mom, this doesn't make sense. What about the mortgage, the car insurance, what about them? They're all set up on your automatic payments. If you changed things, they might not go through. They won't go through, I said calmly. I canceled all automatic payments this morning. Another long silence. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Sharper, colder. You can't just do that without warning. We have bills, Mom. Obligations. The mortgage is due in 2 weeks. Then I suggest you make sure you can cover it. With what you know, we're stretched thin right now. Are you? I asked. Because you just booked a $4,500 trip to the Bahamas. You're doing a kitchen renovation. Vanessa shops at designer outlets. That doesn't sound stretched thin to me, Alex. That sounds like people living beyond their means because someone else is paying the bills. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not. It hasn't been fair for 3 years, but it's stopping now. We need to talk about this in person. I'm coming over. Not tonight, Alex. Mom? I said not tonight. I need some space. You need some time to think. We'll talk when we're both ready. This is crazy. You're making a huge mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the rush of finally saying what needed to be said. The phone rang again immediately. I turned off the ringer and went back to my garden. Over the next 3 days, my phone became a chronicle of Alex's descent into panic. Day 1. Text messages. 3:15 p.m. Mom, seriously, call me back. We need to fix this. 4:22 p.m. The bank says you closed my access to everything. Why would you do this? 5:30 p.m. Vanessa is really upset. You're putting us in a terrible position. 6:45 p.m. Fine, don't answer, but you're making a big mistake. Day 2. Voicemails. 9:12 a.m. Mom, the mortgage company just called. They said next week's payment will bounce unless we arrange something else. This is going to wreck my credit. Call me. 10:30 a.m. I had to call Dad's life insurance company. Did you know they'll only talk to you? I can't even access information about his policy. This is ridiculous. 18 p.m. Vanessa's car insurance got canceled because the payment didn't go through. We could get in legal trouble if she drives without insurance. Is that what you want? 7:55 p.m. You know what? Maybe this is good. Maybe we needed this wake-up call. But you could have talked to us first, instead of just cutting us off like we're strangers. Day 3. Escalation. 8:00 a.m. Email with subject urgent, financial crisis. Mom, I don't know what's happening with you, but this needs to stop. Our mortgage payment is due in 1 week, and we have no way to cover it. The bank is threatening late fees. Our credit cards are maxed out because you cut off the ones we were using. Vanessa can't drive to work because we can't afford to reinstate her car insurance. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for the help you've been giving us for years. What changed? What did we do wrong? If this is about Sunday dinner, I'm sorry. I know the seating wasn't ideal and your food was probably cold. It was chaotic and we weren't thinking. But that doesn't justify putting our entire family at financial risk. Please call me. Let's figure this out like adults. Alex. I read the email 3 times. Each time I felt different things. The first read guilt. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe the dinner wasn't that bad. Maybe I was being petty. The second read anger. Help you've been giving us for years, like it was a gift I'd offered instead of a resource he'd taken. If this is about Sunday dinner, like that was the only issue, not the 3 years and $147,000 that led up to it. The third read clarity. He still didn't get it. He was sorry about the seating arrangement and the cold food, but not about the fundamental disrespect. Not about treating me like an ATM instead of a mother. Not about building his life on my savings without asking if I could afford it. I didn't respond to the email, but I did call Lauren. He's spiraling, I told her. Good, she said firmly. Let him spiral. He needs to hit bottom before he can climb back up. But what if— Mom, no, don't do this. Don't rescue him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He's a grown man with a good job. He can figure this out. What about Ethan? Ethan has 2 parents with jobs and a roof over their head. He'll be fine. Alex won't let his son go hungry. He'll just have to make adult choices instead of raiding your savings account. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and feeling are different things. On day 4, I started living again. I'd been so consumed with the drama, checking my phone, reading messages, anticipating the next crisis, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just exist peacefully in my own life. So I decided to remember. I woke up early and made a proper breakfast. Not just toast and tea, but scrambled eggs with cheese, bacon, fresh squeezed orange juice. I set the table with Margaret's good plates, the ones we only used for holidays, put a cloth napkin in my lap, ate slowly, tasting every bite. After breakfast, I drove to the farmer's market downtown, something I used to do every Saturday before Margaret died, then stopped because it felt too sad to go alone. But I wasn't too sad anymore. The market was exactly as I remembered. Colorful tents, the smell of fresh bread and coffee, people laughing and bargaining and living their weekend lives. I bought tomatoes still warm from the sun, a bouquet of mixed flowers honey in a glass jar, and a loaf of sourdough bread that was so fresh I could smell it through the bag. An older man at the honey stand smiled at me. Beautiful day, isn't it? It really is, I said, and I meant it. At home, I arranged the flowers in Margaret's favorite vase, cut crystal, a wedding gift from his mother. Put them in the center of the dining table where I could see them while I ate. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called an old friend. Nancy Murphy and I had been close when our kids were young. PTA meetings, carpools, coffee dates while the kids played. But after Margaret died and I got so wrapped up in Alex's needs, I'd let the friendship drift. She answered on the third ring. Charlotte Hayes. Hi, Nancy. I know it's been a while. A while, try 3 years. How are you? I've thought about you so many times. We talked for an hour. She'd retired from teaching. Her husband had health problems but was managing. Her daughter was pregnant with her first grandchild. Nancy, I'm sorry I disappeared, I said. I got lost for a while. You were grieving. We all understood. Still, I'd like to get coffee sometime, if you're free. I'm free tomorrow. How about Sullivan's Cafe at 10? Perfect. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, excited. About tomorrow. About coffee with a friend. About my own life. That evening I FaceTimed with Lauren. Mom, you look different. Good different. I feel different. I went to the farmer's market today, and I'm having coffee with Nancy Murphy tomorrow. That's amazing. See, this is what happens when you stop letting people drain your energy. Has Alex called you? 17 times. I'm not answering. He needs to deal with you directly, not try to get me to play mediator. What if he shows up here? Lauren's face got serious. Do you want him to? I thought about it. Eventually, but not yet. I need him to sit with this for a while, really feel it. Then don't answer the door if he comes, or tell him you're not ready to talk. You get to set the boundaries now, Mom. Boundaries. Such a simple word for such a hard thing. On day 6, Vanessa called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Charlotte. Her voice was cold, professional, like she was calling a business associate, not her mother-in-law. We need to discuss this situation. Hello, Vanessa. Alex is falling apart. He can't sleep. He can't focus at work. You're destroying him. I'm not destroying him. I'm requiring him to be responsible for his own life. By cutting him off without warning, by jeopardizing our home, our credit, our stability. I'm not jeopardizing anything. Alex has a good job. You have a job. You're both educated, capable adults. You can pay your own mortgage. You know it's not that simple. We have expenses. So do I, Vanessa. I have expenses too, and for 3 years I've been covering yours on top of mine. We never asked you to. You didn't have to ask. You just took. Silence. Cold and hard. If this is about Sunday dinner, it's not about one dinner, it's about 3 years of dinners. 3 years of being treated like I'm invisible unless you need money. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It isn't, which is exactly my point. So what now? You're just going to let us lose our house? Your house, Vanessa, not mine. And no, I'm not going to let you lose it. Because you're not going to lose it. You're going to pay for it. Like adults do. You're being cruel. No, I'm being clear. There's a difference. She hung up on me. I set down my phone and realized I was smiling. On the 7th day, Alex came to my door. It was late afternoon, the sky that particular shade of gray that means rain is coming. I was in the living room reading one of Margaret's old poetry books. Mary Oliver, his favorite, when I heard the car pull into the driveway. I looked out the window. Alex's Honda Accord. He sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, head bowed, hands on the steering wheel. Just sitting there like he was gathering courage. Good, I thought. Let him gather it. Let him really think about what he wants to say. Finally, he got out. No phone in his hand, I noticed. That was different. He walked slowly up the path, shoulders slumped, hands in his jacket pockets. When he reached the door, he didn't knock right away, just stood there staring at the wood like he could see through it to where I waited on the other side. Then finally a knock. Soft, hesitant. Nothing like the confident son who used to bound through this door calling, "Mom, I'm here." I waited a full minute before answering. Let him stand there and wonder if I was home, if I'd answer, if I even wanted to see him. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. His eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. His usually neat hair was messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. He wore an old college sweatshirt I'd bought him 15 years ago, faded and stretched. He looked younger than his 42 years. Vulnerable. He looked for the first time in a long time like my son instead of a stranger living in my son's body. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. "Hello, Alex. Can I come in?" I stepped aside without a word. He entered slowly like he was visiting for the first time. Looked around the living room, the same room he'd grown up in, like he was seeing it with new eyes. His gaze stopped on the mantel, on the photographs arranged there. Him at 5 years old, missing his front teeth, holding a baseball bat. Him at high school graduation, arm around my shoulders, both of us beaming. Him and Margaret fishing the summer before Margaret died. "You kept all of these," he said softly. "Of course I did. They're my life." He turned to face me, and I saw his eyes were wet. "I'm sorry, Mom." Those 3 words hung in the air between us. Simple, inadequate, but real. "Sit down, Alex." We sat on opposite ends of the sofa. The same sofa where I'd rocked him through nightmares when he was little, where we'd watched baseball games together, where Margaret had taught him to tie his shoes. The space between us felt like miles. "I've been doing a lot of thinking this week," Alex began. His voice was rough, like talking hurt. "At first I was angry, really angry. I felt betrayed, like you'd pulled the rug out from under me without warning. I stayed quiet, let him talk. But then I couldn't sleep. And when you can't sleep, you have time to really think, really look at yourself. And Mom," his voice cracked, "I didn't like what I saw." "What did you see?" "A man who was using his mother. A man who had gotten so comfortable taking from you that I didn't even see it as taking anymore. I saw it as normal, as just how things worked." "When did it start feeling normal?" He rubbed his face with both hands. "I don't know. Maybe after the first few times you said yes without any hesitation. Maybe when you co-signed the mortgage and I realized I could structure my whole life around your money being there. Maybe—" He looked at me, really looked at me. "Maybe when Dad died and you were so sad and I told myself I was helping you by letting you help me, that it gave you purpose. Did you really believe that—" I wanted to believe it, because it was easier than admitting I was taking advantage of my widowed mother. The honesty of it was startling, painful, but necessary. "Last Sunday," I started. "I know," he interrupted. "The dinner. Mom, I am so sorry about that dinner. Are you sorry about the cold food and the folding chair, or are you sorry about the 3 years that led to that moment?" He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Both. All of it. Everything." I pulled out the folder I'd been keeping on the coffee table, the same one I'd taken to the bank, opened it, and showed him the first page a summary I'd made of every payment, every charge, every withdrawal over 3 years. $147,240, I said. "That's what you took from me, Alex, in less than 3 years. His face went white. "That can't be right." "It is right. I have every statement, every receipt, every canceled check. But I didn't realize it was that much. How could it be that much? $2,400 a month for the mortgage. That's $28,800 a year times 18 months. Another $1,000 a month in credit card charges, car insurance, phone bills, gas, groceries, the Bahamas trip, the kitchen renovation, Ethan's school programs. It adds up, Alex. When you're spending someone else's money, it adds up fast." He was shaking his head, eyes still on the paper. "I thought maybe 30,000, 40 at most, but 150, he looked up at me. "Mom, what have I done? How do you even have any money left?" "I have $38,000 left in savings. When your father died, I had $185,000. "Oh my God." He stood up, started pacing. "Oh my God, Mom, I almost bankrupted you. You're 73 years old and I almost left you with nothing." "You didn't almost. You did. At the rate we were going, I would have been broke in 18 months. At 75, with no cushion, no safety net. Just Social Security and hope." He sat back down harder than he meant to. The sofa springs squeaked in protest. "I don't know what to say. Sorry doesn't even begin to cover it." "No," I agreed. "It doesn't, but it's a start." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall. "Why didn't you say something?" Alex asked. "Why didn't you tell me to stop? I tried at first. Little hints, gentle reminders that maybe you should pay me back, maybe slow down on spending. But you always had a reason why you couldn't. And I paused, choosing my words carefully. "I didn't want to lose you. After your father died, you were all I had nearby. Lauren's in California. I was so afraid that if I said no, if I set boundaries, you'd stop visiting. Stop calling. Stop needing me. So you let me use you. I let you use me because I thought being needed was the same as being loved. His eyes filled with tears. Mom, I do love you. I got so caught up in my own life, my own problems, that I forgot to show it. You forgot to see me, Alex. There's a difference between loving someone and seeing them. You love the idea of your mother, the safety net, the bank account, the person who would always say yes, but you stopped seeing me as a person, as someone with limits, with needs, with dignity. You're right. He was crying now, tears rolling down his face. You're absolutely right, and I hate that you're right. I hate what I became. I reached over and took his hand. It was bigger than mine now, rough with age and work. But I remembered when it was tiny, when his whole hand could barely wrap around one of my fingers. Alex, I want you to understand something. I didn't cut you off to punish you. Then why? Because I was disappearing. Every time I said yes when I meant no, every time I pretended the cold dinner didn't hurt, every time I let you treat me like I was invisible, I disappeared a little more. And I realized that if I didn't stop, if I didn't set boundaries, there would be nothing left of me. Just an empty shell that kept writing checks until the money ran out. He squeezed my hand. I never wanted that. I swear, Mom, I never wanted to hurt you. I believe you. But intent doesn't erase impact. You may not have meant to hurt me, but you did. For a long time. How do I fix it? His voice was almost a whisper. How do I make this right? I'd been thinking about this question for days. There was no simple answer, no quick fix. But there was a path forward if we were both willing to walk it. First, I say, you need to take responsibility for your own life, your mortgage, your bills, your family's expenses, all of it. No more automatic payments from my accounts. No more assuming I'll cover things. I can do that. I will do that. Second, you need to see me, really see me. Not as a resource, not as a backup plan, but as a person. Your mother, yes, but also a woman with her own life, her own needs, her own dignity. I want to do that, Mom. I want to see you again. Third, this one was harder. You need to pay me back. He looked startled. Of course, all of it. However long it takes. No, I said gently. Not all of it. That's not realistic, and honestly, I don't want us to spend the next 20 years with money hanging over our relationship. But I do want you to pay back something. A symbolic amount. Something that reminds you every month of what this cost. How much? $50 a month for 5 years. That's $3,000 total, not even close to what you took, but enough to matter. Enough that you'll feel it when you write the check. Done. I'll start this month. And fourth, I took a deep breath. I need you to promise me something. Anything. The next time you come to Sunday dinner, if there is a next time, I want a real seat at the table. I want warm food the same as everyone else. I want to be included in the conversation. I want to be treated like I matter. His face crumpled. God, Mom, of course you matter. You matter more than anything. Then show me. Don't just tell me. Show me. I will. I promise I will. We sat together in silence, still holding hands while the rain picked up outside. The room was getting dark, but neither of us moved to turn on a light. Sometimes difficult conversations are easier in the dimness. Mom, Alex said finally, can I ask you something? Of course. That Sunday, the dinner that changed everything. Why that night? What made that the breaking point? I thought about it. About the cold plate, the folding chair, the conversation about Mom's account, like I wasn't even there. It was hearing you and Vanessa discuss my money like it was yours, like my bank account was a community resource you could tap whenever you needed. And realizing that you didn't even see me sitting right there. I was physically present, but completely invisible. And I thought, if I'm invisible in my own son's home, maybe it's time to become visible in my own life. You were never invisible to me, Mom. Yes, I was, but that's okay, because I was invisible to myself, too. I'd gotten so used to shrinking, to being less, to not taking up space, that I forgot I deserved to be seen. Alex leaned over and hugged me. Not a quick, distracted hug like the ones he'd given me for 3 years. A real hug, long and tight, and full of the kind of love that doesn't just say the words, but means them. Thank you, he whispered into my shoulder. For what? For not giving up on me. For loving me enough to let me fall. For teaching me this lesson before it was too late. I hugged him back, feeling something shift and settle in my chest. Not forgiveness yet, that would take time, but the beginning of it, the possibility. "You're welcome, honey. Now go home. You have a mortgage to figure out how to pay." He laughed, wet and a little broken, but genuine. Yeah, I do." At the door, he turned back. "Mom, can I come back? Not for money, not for help with bills, just to visit, to talk, to be your son again." "Not yet," I said gently. "Give me a little more time. Give yourself time to figure things out. Then yes, always yes." He nodded, wiped his eyes, and walked out into the rain. I watched from the window as he sat in his car for a long moment before starting the engine, watched him drive away, taillights disappearing into the gray afternoon. Then I turned on all the lights in the house and made myself a cup of tea. The hardest part was over. 3 weeks passed before I heard from Alex again. Not complete silence, he texted twice. Once to confirm he'd made his first $50 payment he had, and once to send a photo of Ethan holding a spelling test with 100% in bright red marker at the top. "He wanted you to see," the text said. "He misses you." I texted back, "Tell him I'm proud of him, and I miss him too." But I didn't offer to visit. Didn't suggest Sunday dinner. Not yet. I was learning something important, that healing doesn't happen on anyone's timeline, but its own. You can't rush it. Can't force it. Can only create space for it. And wait. In those 3 weeks, I lived more fully than I had in 3 years. I had coffee with Nancy Murphy, which turned into lunch, which turned into a standing Tuesday morning breakfast date. She introduced me to her book club, 8 women in their 60s and 70s who met every other Thursday to discuss novels and drink wine and laugh too loud. "You'll love it," Nancy promised. "It's like therapy, but with better snacks." She was right. The first meeting, we discussed a mystery novel I'd read in 2 days. The second meeting, we abandoned the book entirely and just talked about our lives. Our kids. Our late husbands, 4 of us were widows. Our fears about aging, about being alone, about becoming invisible in a world that worships youth. To being magnificently visible. One woman toasted, raising her wine glass. We all drank to that. I also started volunteering at the library again. I'd stopped after Margaret died, told them I needed time. 3 years later, they welcomed me back like I'd never left. Mrs. Hayes, the head librarian, a young woman named Emma, hugged me. "We've missed you so much. The children's reading program hasn't been the same without you." So I read stories to children every Thursday afternoon, sat in the big chair in the children's section with picture books on my lap and kids sitting cross-legged on the carpet looking up at me with wide, attentive eyes. They saw me, really saw me, because children don't know yet how to look through people. One little girl with braids and missing front teeth came up to me after reading Time. "You're the best story reader," she said solemnly. "You do all the voices right." "Thank you, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Emma, like the librarian." "That's a beautiful name." She smiled, gap-toothed and glorious, and I felt something warm bloom in my chest. Purpose. Not the kind that comes from being needed to pay bills, but the kind that comes from being present in the world, contributing something real. Lauren called every few days. Sometimes we talked for 5 minutes, sometimes for an hour. She told me about her patients, the difficult cases, the ones that made her cry in the hospital bathroom. I told her about book club, about the library, about Nancy and the book club women, and how good it felt to laugh again. "You sound like yourself again, Mom," she said one night. "Like the mom I remember before Dad died. I feel like myself again. It's strange. I didn't realize how much of me I'd lost until I started finding it again." "And Alex, have you talked to him?" "Texts mostly. He's made both of his $50 payments on time. He hasn't asked for anything. Hasn't pushed to see me. How do you feel about that?" "Relieved, sad, hopeful, all at the same time." "That sounds healthy, actually." "Does it? Yeah. It means you're feeling the real feelings instead of just the ones you think you should feel." Smart girl, my daughter. On the 21st day after Alex's visit, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Alex's, the same careful print he'd used since elementary school when the teacher told him his cursive was too messy. Inside was a letter. 4 pages, handwritten, the paper slightly wrinkled like he'd started it several times. "Dear Mom, I've started this letter at least 10 times. Every time I get a few sentences in and realize I'm not saying what I really mean. So this time I'm just going to be honest. Raw, even if it's messy. I've been thinking a lot about the man I became. Not the man I thought I was successful providing for his family, taking care of things, but the man I actually was. The one who used his mother like an ATM. The one who took and took and took until there was almost nothing left to take. I tried to figure out when it started. When I crossed the line from accepting help to demanding it, from borrowing to stealing. Because that's what it was, Mom. Even if you said yes, even if you wrote the checks, I was stealing from you. I was stealing your security, your peace of mind, your future. And worst of all, I was stealing your dignity. I remember the first time I asked you for money. Dad had been gone for 4 months. You were still in that fog of grief where you moved through the world but didn't really inhabit it. My car broke down and I called you because I knew you'd say yes. You always said yes to us when we were kids. Why would it be different now? You transferred the money that afternoon. $1,200. I told you I'd pay you back, and I meant it. At the time. But then the next thing happened, and the next, and you kept saying yes, and somewhere along the way, can you help became I need you to, became obviously you will. I stopped asking. I just assumed. And you never corrected that assumption. Why didn't you, Mom? Why didn't you say no? I think I know now. You were afraid of losing us, of being alone, of not being needed anymore. And I used that fear. Maybe not consciously, but I used it. Do you remember that last Sunday, the one that changed everything? I've replayed it 1,000 times, trying to see what you saw, trying to understand how we made you feel. The folding chair in the corner, the cold food while we ate hot meals, the way we discussed your bank account like you weren't even sitting there, the sliver of dessert we gave you like you didn't deserve the same generous portions we took for granted. I see it now, how we made you invisible, how we took your presence, your money, your love, and gave nothing real back. How we treated you like an obligation instead of the person who gave us everything. I'm ashamed, Mom. Not the kind of shame that's performative or temporary, but deep bone-level shame that makes me sick when I think about it. I'm ashamed of the man I became. The man who could look at his widowed mother sitting in a corner with cold food and not see anything wrong with that picture. But shame isn't enough, is it? Shame is just feeling bad about yourself. It's not the same as change. So here's what I'm doing. 1. I called the mortgage company and refinanced without you as co-signer. My rate went up, but that's my problem now, not yours. My house, my payment. 2. I paid off the credit card debt I accumulated on your cards. $21,000. It wiped out our savings and we had to cancel the Bahamas trip, but you know what? We didn't need that trip. We needed to learn how to live within our means. 3. I've set up an automatic payment of $50 a month to your account. Not because you asked for it, but because I need the reminder. Every month when I write that check, I need to remember what it cost you to say yes to me over and over again. 4. I'm seeing a therapist. Vanessa and I together, actually. We're working on understanding why we felt so entitled to your money, why we couldn't see what we were doing, how we lost our way. 5. I told Ethan about what happened. Not the details, but the important part, that Grandma had been helping us for a long time and we forgot to say thank you. We forgot to treat her with the respect and love she deserved. He cried. He asked if you still loved us. I told him yes, but that sometimes love means taking a step back so people can learn to stand on their own. I don't expect forgiveness, Mom. Not yet, maybe not ever. I know I don't deserve it. But I do want to ask for something, the chance to be your son again. Not the son who needed money, but the son you raised. The one who knew how to respect his mother, how to honor the sacrifices she made, how to love someone without taking from them. I miss you. Ethan misses you. Even Vanessa, though she'll never admit it, misses having you in our lives. Not for the money, for you, for your presence, your wisdom, your stories about Dad, your terrible jokes that make Ethan groan but secretly laugh. We don't deserve to have you back in our lives, but if you're willing, we'd like the chance to earn our way back. I'm not asking for Sunday dinners to resume. I'm not asking for anything regular or scheduled. Just maybe coffee sometime, just you and me, so I can look at you across the table and really see you the way I should have been seeing you all along. With love and deep regret, Alex. P.S. I'm enclosing something else. A letter Ethan wrote. He doesn't know I'm sending it with mine, but I thought you should see it. I set down Alex's letter, my vision blurred with tears, reached into the envelope and pulled out the second letter. This one was written on wide-ruled paper with a pencil. The handwriting was careful and crooked, The letters different sizes, some words spelled wrong. Dear Grandma, I miss you a lot. Dad says you needed some space because we weren't being nice enough. I'm sorry if I wasn't nice. I tried to give you my bread at dinner, but Mom said no. I don't understand why you stopped coming on Sundays. Dad says it's conflicted, but I think maybe you just don't want to see us anymore. Are you mad at me? I got a 100 on my spelling test. I wanted to tell you in person, but Dad said to wait. I'm good at spelling now. You would be proud. Can you come back soon? I promise I'll sit next to you at dinner and share everything. I'll even share my dessert, even if it's chocolate cake, which is my favorite. I love you, Grandma. Please don't forget about me. Love, Ethan. P.S. I'm saving my allowance to buy you flowers. I have $7 so far. I read Ethan's letter 3 times, and by the 3rd time I was crying so hard I could barely see the words. He thought I was mad at him. He thought I'd stopped coming because of something he did. 8 years old, and he was trying to save his allowance to buy me flowers. I stood up, walked to the phone, and dialed before I could change my mind. Alex answered on the first ring. Mom. Hi, honey. Did you get my letter? I did. Both of them. Silence. Then quietly, and I think it's time we had that coffee. How's Saturday morning 10 o'clock at Sullivan's Cafe? I heard him let out a breath he'd been holding. Really, just you and me. We have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. Alex, one more thing. Anything. Tell Ethan I'm not mad at him. Tell him I could never be mad at him. And tell him to keep saving his allowance, but not for flowers. Grandma's going to take him for ice cream soon, and he'll need money for extra toppings. Alex's voice was thick. I'll tell him. He's going to be so happy. Good. I'll see you Saturday. After I hung up, I sat for a long time with both letters in my lap. Alex's careful adult handwriting, Ethan's crooked, earnest letters. This was what rebuilding looked like. Not perfect, not instant, but real. Honest. Hopeful. Saturday morning came cold and bright. November sunshine pouring through the windows, making everything look clean and full of possibility. I took my time getting ready. Wore the navy blazer again, the one that made me feel like someone who mattered. Added Margaret's pearl earrings, the ones he'd given me for our 25th anniversary. Looked in the mirror and saw a woman who looked like herself again. Sullivan's Cafe was busy when I arrived at 9:55. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries, the sound of conversation and laughter, the warmth of a place where people gathered to start their days. Alex was already there, sitting at a corner table, 2 coffee cups in front of him, steam rising. He stood up when he saw me, nervous, uncertain. Hi, Mom. I ordered you a latte, the way you like it, with extra foam. Thank you, honey. We sat down across from each other, not on the same side, but facing, seeing. For a moment, neither of us knew how to start. Then Alex said, You look beautiful, Mom. Really beautiful. Like yourself again. I feel like myself again. It's been a long time. Too long. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. I'm glad we're doing this. Me too. We talked for 2 hours. Not about money, we didn't mention money once. We talked about Margaret, about the good memories. About Alex's childhood, the silly things he'd done, the trouble he'd gotten into. Remember when you tried to give the dog a haircut? I asked. Alex laughed, a real laugh, deep and genuine. Poor Rusty looked like he'd been attacked by a lawnmower. Dad was so mad. He wasn't mad. He was trying not to laugh. I could see him biting his cheek to keep a straight face. I miss him, Mom. Every day I miss him. Me too, baby. Me too. We talked about Ethan, about what a sweet kid he was, how much he reminded me of Alex at that age. He really does want to buy you flowers, Alex said. He's been putting every bit of allowance in a jar labeled Grandma Fund. That boy is too precious for this world. He gets it from you, the kindness, the generosity, the big heart. I hope he also learns the boundaries that I didn't teach you. Alex nodded seriously. We're working on that. Vanessa and I, with the therapist. Teaching him that it's okay to say no, that loving someone doesn't mean giving them everything they ask for, that boundaries are how you protect relationships, not end them. That's good. That's really good. Near the end, Alex said, I need to tell you something about Vanessa. I tensed slightly. Okay. She wants to apologize to you. In person. She's been too embarrassed, too ashamed, but she knows she owes you more than just sorry. She knows she was terrible to you. Was she terrible, or was she just taking her cues from you? Alex considered this. Both maybe. I was the one using you financially, but she was the one making you feel unwelcome in our home. The cold food, the bad seat, the little comments about your age. That was her. Why? Honestly, I think she was jealous of how much I relied on you, how much I talked about you, how much I clearly loved you. She felt like she was competing with you for my attention, so she diminished you, made you less in her mind so she could be more. That's sad? It is, and it's not an excuse, but she sees it now. She wants to do better. Then I'll talk to her, when we're all ready. Thank you, Mom. When we got up to leave, Alex hugged me, a long, tight hug that felt like it was trying to make up for 3 years of distracted, half-present ones. I love you, Mom. I'm going to do better, I promise. I know you will, honey. I believe you. At the door, he hesitated. So, what happens now? Is there a plan, steps we need to follow? I thought about it. What did happen now? Now, I said we take it slow. We rebuild trust one coffee at a time, one honest conversation at a time, and eventually maybe Sunday dinners again, but different ones. Different how? Ones where I get a real seat, warm food, respect, where I'm treated like family, not like an afterthought. I can do that. We can do that. I swear, Mom, the next time you come to our house, everything will be different. I'll hold you to that. 4 weeks later, the phone rang on a Sunday morning. Hi, Mom, it's Alex. Good morning, honey, how are you? Good. Really good, actually. Listen, I know we've been taking it slow and I don't want to push, but would you like to come for dinner today? 6 o'clock. My heart did a little skip. Fear, excitement, both. Are you sure? Are you ready? We're ready. We've been preparing all week. Vanessa's made something special. Ethan's been asking every day if today is the day you're coming back. What did you tell him? That we had to make sure everything was perfect first. That Grandma deserves perfect. I smiled. Nothing has to be perfect, Alex. It just has to be honest. Then honestly, Mom, we miss you. And we'd really love to have you here. Not as a bank account. Not as an obligation. As our mother and grandmother. As someone we love and who deserves to be treated with love. I looked around my quiet house, Margaret's chair, the photos on the mantel, the life I'd built back up over the past month, full and good and mine, but also lonely sometimes, also missing the family I'd created. Okay, I said, I'll come, but Alex, yes, if there's a folding chair waiting for me, I'm leaving. He laughed. There won't be, I promise. There's a seat at the head of the table with your name on it. Literally. Ethan made a name card. Then I'll see you at 6. I arrived at 6:01, 1 minute late on purpose, to show that I came when I wanted to, not when I was expected to. The door opened before I could knock. Ethan stood there wearing his best shirt and a huge smile. Grandma, he launched himself at me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You came, Dad said you would, but I was worried you changed your mind. I wouldn't miss it, sweetheart. Not for the world. He grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. Come see, I made you a name card and everything. The dining room had been transformed, not with expensive decorations or fancy china, but with care. The table was set beautifully, every placemat straight, every napkin folded. And at the head of the table, the seat usually reserved for Alex was a place setting with a handmade name card. Grandma, in Ethan's careful letters, decorated with drawings of flowers and hearts. Ethan, it's beautiful, I said, my voice catching. And look, he pointed to the center of the table, a vase of fresh flowers, yellow roses, my favorite. Dad said you like yellow, so we got yellow. Alex appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron, looking nervous and hopeful. Hi, Mom. Welcome. Vanessa came out behind him. She looked different, smaller, somehow less polished. Her hair was simple, her clothes casual. She looked like someone who'd been crying recently. Charlotte. She walked up to me, hands clasped in front of her. Thank you for coming. I have something to say. I waited. I'm sorry. Her voice was quiet but firm. I'm sorry for how I treated you. For the cold food and the bad seats and making you feel unwelcome in our home. I'm sorry for the little comments about your age, for dismissing you, for acting like you were a burden instead of a blessing. You deserved so much better, and I gave you worse. I'm deeply, truly sorry. It was a good apology. Specific. accountable, real. Thank you, Vanessa. I accept your apology. She let out a breath. Really? Really? We all made mistakes. We're all learning. Let's just agree to do better going forward. She nodded, eyes shining. I'd like that. Okay. Alex clapped his hands together. Dinner's ready. Mom, if you'd like to take your seat. I walked to the head of the table, the seat of honor, the place that said you matter. I sat down and Ethan immediately climbed into the chair next to me. I get to sit by Grandma, he announced proudly. The food came out. Alex and Vanessa working together to serve. And not just serve, they served me first. A beautiful plate of herb-roasted chicken garlic, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables glistening with olive oil, fresh bread still warm from the oven. This looks wonderful, I said. Wait until you taste it, Alex said. Vanessa took a cooking class. She's been practicing all week. We ate together. Real conversation, everyone included. They asked about my week, about book club, about the library. Told me about Ethan's school play, about Alex's work, about their lives. No one looked at their phones. No one discussed bills or money or problems. We just talked, like a family. After dinner, Vanessa brought out dessert. A beautiful apple pie made from scratch, she told me proudly. And she cut 5 equal pieces, large, generous portions for everyone. I used your recipe, Vanessa said, placing my slice in front of me. Alex gave it to me. I hope it's okay. I know it won't be as good as yours, but... Vanessa, I took a bite. It was good, really good. Not quite like mine, but wonderful in its own way. This is delicious. Thank you for making it. She beamed. After dessert, Ethan asked if he could show me his room. I got new glow-in-the-dark stars, and I built a Lego spaceship. I'd love to see it. We went upstairs, Ethan's hand in mine, and he showed me everything. Every toy, every drawing, every treasure an 8-year-old considers important. And on his nightstand, I saw it. A framed photo of him and me from 2 years ago. At the park, both of us laughing, his ice cream dripping down his hand. I keep this here so I can see you every night before bed, he said simply. I had to sit down on his bed, my vision blurred with tears. Grandma, why are you crying? Because I'm happy, sweetheart. So happy to be here with you. He climbed up next to me and leaned his head against my shoulder. I'm happy too. I missed you so much. I missed you too, baby, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. When it was time to leave, Alex walked me to my car. The night was cold and clear, stars bright overhead. Thank you for coming, Mom, for giving us another chance. Thank you for earning it. Did we earn it? I thought about the seat of honor, the warm food, the equal dessert portions, the real conversation, Vanessa's genuine apology, Ethan's joy at having me there. You're on your way, I said. Keep going like this, and yes, you'll earn it. I will. We will. Every Sunday, Mom. We want you here every Sunday. Let's not rush it. Every other Sunday, maybe. And I reserve the right to say no sometimes, to have my own life, my own plans. Fair. That's fair. He hugged me. I love you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on us. I love you too, honey. But remember, I didn't give up on you. I gave up on being someone I wasn't. There's a difference. I understand, and I'm glad you did. The woman who drove away tonight, that's the mom I remember. Strong and present and fully herself. That's the mom I want in my life. Then that's the mom you'll get. I drove home with the windows down despite the cold, the radio on, my heart full. And when I got home, I called Lauren. How'd it go? She asked immediately. It went well, really well. Not perfect, but real. Honest. Better. I'm so proud of you, Mom. I'm proud of me too, I said, and meant it. Spring came to my garden with a vengeance. Margaret's roses bloomed more beautifully than they had in years, like they'd been waiting for me to find myself again before they'd really flourish. I was in the garden on a Saturday morning pruning the rose bushes when my phone rang. Alex FaceTiming. I answered, my face filling the screen. Behind me, roses in full bloom. Mom, the garden looks amazing. Your father's roses are showing off this year. I think they approve of all the changes. I think Dad would approve of all the changes. I think so too. Listen, I'm calling because Vanessa and I wanted to ask you something. Okay. We're having a little barbecue next month, end of May. Just family and close friends. Lauren's flying in, did she tell you? She mentioned she might. Would you like to come help us host? Vanessa wants to introduce you to some of our friends properly, as our mother and grandmother, not as how we treated you before. I'd like that. What can I bring? Just yourself, Mom. That's all we need. After we hung up, I sat on my garden bench, the same one Margaret built 20 years ago, and looked at my roses. 6 months ago, I was invisible, a ghost in my own family, a bank account with a pulse. Now I was fully visible, fully present, fully myself. The journey had been hard, painful, necessary, but sitting in my garden, surrounded by blooming roses and warm sunshine, planning a family barbecue where I'd be treated with the love and respect I deserved, I realized something important. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the people you love is to stop giving until there's nothing left, to set boundaries, to demand respect, to refuse to disappear. Not because you don't love them, but because you do. Because real love requires real presence, and you can't be present if you've given away every piece of yourself. Margaret used to say, "Charlie, you teach people how to love you by showing them how you love yourself." I hadn't understood what he meant. Not really, but I understood now. I stood up, brushed the dirt from my knees, and went inside to make lunch. Not leftovers, not the scraps of someone else's meal. A real lunch, for myself, because I mattered. And finally, after 73 years and one cold plate that changed everything, I believed it.